Hey, what's good? Hey, listen, I'm excited because today I'm going to talk about the second key, the second pillar of the 5 pillars of magnificence. How to have a magnificent life, or even more magnificent life than you already have. And as usual, this is not only just, I'm going to tell you some stuff, but I'm going to give you something to do so that you can put it inside of your nervous system so that it becomes part of who you are. These 5 things, as you do them, you grow as a person and you create more magnificence around so that you be, do, and have more of what I call being wealthy, healthy, happy, and financially abundant. So grab a pad and paper, because you know how we roll up in here. It's not just about talk. It's not just about learning stuff. I'm going to give you something that you can do so you can put it inside of you. So let's recap. The first key was integrity, is integrity. What does integrity mean? In this case, it means doing what you say you're going to do. And I had you write down some things and write down the things that you've already done so that you can recognize that you're already magnificent in that way. And remember, magnificence means to magnify the essence of who you are. You're already a badass. We're just going to add to it. And the second key, super simple, but again, I want to get us on the same page, is something called tenacity. Tenacity. What does that mean? If you look it up, it says things like longevity and things like that. But tenacity in this case means continue to do what you said you're going to do, or what you say you're going to do. You see, one of the biggest challenges that holds people back, that stops people, that keeps people from their dreams and their goals and desires, is not just procrastination. Procrastination is one thing. Or not, writing down your goals, or not doing what you said you're going to do. It's lack of consistency. It's lack of, here comes the D word, discipline. I'll talk about that here in a second. But lack of consistency. And what that means is you can't just do it once. You can't just do it twice, or maybe even 10 times. You got to do it over and over and over again till you get your dream, your goal, or your desire, whatever you're after. But here's the thing that most people don't think about with tenacity, with doing what you said you're going to do and doing it over and over again. Something happens. I call it human physics. In human physics, there's a whole lot of, physics, just so you know, physics is a simple explanation, is the cause and effect of movement. That's just an unbelievably simple explanation. But what that means is when something moves, and everything's moving all of the time, not some of the time, not most of the time, all the time. Some things are moving minusculely slow, and some things are moving very fast. And you might say to yourself, well, Joseph, there's a rock, and the rock isn't moving at all. Yes, it is. We're all hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour, and everything is always in flux, always in movement. And when something happens, there's always going to be, that would be a cause. When a movement happens, there's going to be an effect or several effects. You probably heard this before. Einstein said that for every cause, or for every effect, for every cause, or for whatever action, there's an equal or greater reaction. For whatever action, there's an equal or greater reaction. What does that mean? When something happens here, it's going to cause something else to happen. There's a cause here, and the effect is whatever. If I pull a string, that's the cause, and on the other end, whatever that string is attached to is going to come closer to me, or the string's going to break, or something. Cause and effect. And so when I say human dynamics or human physics, what I mean by that, and there's so many of them, because I remember there's an equal or greater or many effects. But one of the ones that I live by, and you might consider this as well, is that whatever you do, whatever any human being does, they're going to get better at it. What does that mean? That means practice. I always say practice makes better, not necessarily perfect. Rehearsal, anything that you do, good or bad, you're going to get better at. You're going to grow at. Things are going to happen. The effect is going to be that you're going to get better at. And again, that's good or bad. If you smoke cigarettes, you're going to get better at smoking cigarettes, but that's not necessarily great for you, because you could, develop lung cancer and all the other stuff that comes along with it. But think about this. The first time you smoke, not that you've smoked, or anybody, I'm not saying that you do, but the first time anybody smokes a cigarette, never do they go, oh my goodness, that tastes good. That feels good. That's wonderful. That's magnificent. No, they don't. Matter of fact, the first time anybody smokes, what do? They cough their guts out. They just keep on coughing and everything. And that's the body saying, this ain't good for you, pal. This is not something you want to continue to do. But because of peer pressure, and because of sometimes we get the nicotine in our body and it starts to feel better a little bit later or whatever, we continue to do it. And then guess what? We get really good at it, smoking and typing, smoking and driving and doing things like that, even though it's causing bad. I know that's just an example, but it's the truth. And you got to ask yourself, okay, well, what makes that person continue to do it? Well, there's several things, and if you use them, then you can do it with the good as well. Because whatever I'm going to teach you here with regard to tenacity in your dreams, goals, and desires, and the actions and activities that it's going to take to make it happen, you want to get good at it. And the more you do it, the more you have discipline, then guess what? You're going to get better and better at it in a whole range of things, and the effect is going to be positive for you. And so what is discipline? Discipline is simply, again, you might want to write this down and have this. It's another basic, and I always like to go from the basics so that we're all on the same page, a basic definition of what discipline is. Discipline to me is doing the prescribed activity, each of these words has a meaning, doing this prescribed activity as prescribed, no matter what, even and especially when it's difficult. Let me repeat that. Doing the prescribed activity or action, no matter what, doing the prescribed activity as prescribed, no matter what, even and especially when it's difficult. What does that mean? In other words, if you've gone through and you decide that you want to start a business, or you decide that you want to build this muscle or whatever. And like I said before, you get a coach or a mentor or somebody, a plan that says, okay, well, here's what you have to do. Here's the prescription. You got to go to the gym 4 days a week. And when you're there, you're going to lift this weight this many times. And then you're going to lift this weight this many times. You're going to do this many crunches, this many things. And it gives you an activity. It gives you a plan. And they say, here's the plan. This is the prescription. And so you got to do that prescription. And if you do it, all the human, as I said, human physics come into play. You get better at it. You get better at doing the actual activity itself, but you also get growth. The muscle grows. Doing the prescribed activity as prescribed. So that doesn't mean I'm going to go 2 days a week. That doesn't mean I'm going to go 1 day a week. That means you're going to go, 3 or 4 days a week and do it exactly as it was prescribed. Do it exactly as prescribed, no matter what. That means even if it's raining outside, even if you don't feel like doing it, even if something got in the way, or you're late or something like that, or you didn't step up and do it exactly when you were supposed to, you got to make it up. No matter what. And the last part is the part that throws most people off, and that is even and especially when it's difficult. And what that means is if you go to the gym, like for example, you go to the gym and you lift weights and you lift it for a day or maybe 2 days, what's going to happen? That muscle's going to hurt. Are you going to feel like going to the gym the next day? I don't think so. Matter of fact, you're going to your brain's going to go, that's painful. Let me I got to do this. I should do this, or I'm going to do it later and let's eat cake. And so you got to step up. And don't worry, I'm going to teach you how to do it. But you got to step up and you got to do it even and especially when it's difficult. Why? Because when something is difficult, when something is hard to do, what that means is there's growth behind it. On the other side of your uncomfortableness, there's always growth. Always. Not some of the time, not most of the time, all of the time. Even if the growth is just your knowledge in that, but you got to do it. And so how do we have discipline? And by the way, what happens to most people is along the way, and even when they hear the word discipline, they got to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to eat salad. And they start making excuses and things up in their mind. And what that does is that goes all the way back to the very first thing the very first pillar, and that is integrity. When we say we're going to do something, if the brain starts to get in and we start to go, that's too hard or whatever, we start making excuses, we're never going to make it to the tenacity part. We don't do what we said we're going to do. So, how do you get yourself to be disciplined? Understand the loop that happens. When you do something, no matter what, even and especially when it's difficult, the second thing that happens is you develop a skill. That's human dynamics, as I said before. And the skill is lifting that weight, okay? And then from the skill, if you do what I say, reward yourself. You've heard me talk about it before. You get something called a belief. Hey, I can do this. Remember the dopamine release in your brain that goes, okay, I can do this. And from that belief, guess what? It makes you want to do it again. And then from doing it again, you get better belief, and it's a loop, and it just grows and grows geometrically. The trick is, though, not just to do it once. Tenacity means doing it over and over again. I always say action, because people say that knowledge is not power, and we know that. Knowledge is just stored information. People say that action is power, and I say, I'm not arguing with them. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it's temporary. It's the beginning of power. Power means movement, means doing something, so it's going to produce a result. Okay? Action means doing something once or twice, maybe even 10 times. But going to the gym 10 times is not going to grow that muscle. You're going to get a little bit better at it, but you're not going to get really good at it. What you want to have is what's called activity. As a matter of fact, you could actually replace or go side by side tenacity with activity. Activity means doing the prescribed action over and over and over again until you surpass your goal, until you pass it up. Not till you get to your goal, because if you just look at your goal, you're going to get that goal, you're going to get there. But when you look past it, you go further faster. When you put that carrot on the stick, you go further faster. When you're looking out beyond your goal and assuming you already got it, then your nervous system kicks in and says, let's just go for that new goal as well, which means we've already achieved the goal that we have. Doing the prescribed activity no matter what, even and especially when it's difficult. Doing the prescribed activity as prescribed no matter what, even and especially when it's difficult. Okay, so let's talk about, so that's what tenacity is, doing it over and over again. Going to the gym or making those phone calls or doing whatever it takes. And so let's talk about how to make it so that it becomes natural inside of us, so that tenacity starts to be a natural extension of who we are. So we don't have to fight ourselves, and we don't have to go through all that stuff and put ourselves in state and do all these things every single time it's time to do it. We want it to be automatic. This is something that I call neuro-encoding. We want to encode ourselves. We want to program ourselves so that when it's time to do something, we step up and we go after it. And we utilize what already goes inside of what's going on inside of us that makes us continue to do it. Like I said, the reason people smoke cigarettes, even though it was painful and the brain and the body is saying, don't do this, is because there's a carrot on the stick. There's something of pleasure in the front, on the other side of it. And whether it's peer pressure or whether it is, somebody's going to like me or I get to hang out with this group of people or that look like whatever it is, in our brain, it says, if I continue to do this hard stuff, even though it's killing me, then I'm going to get something of pleasure. And so the way to do it is this. And again, I use things like losing weight and making money and working out and things like that because it's low-hanging fruit and it's easy to understand. And if you think about this, if you go to the gym and you work out and it's hard and it's difficult, at the end of it, here's what most people do. They go, oh God, that was hard. Man, oh man, I didn't like that. And they feel bad in that moment. Well, guess what? You always have the ability to feel good in the moment, to change how that is, to force yourself on just the side of forcing yourself to feel good. And when you do, there's dynamics, there's beauty that happens in there, there's programming, there's encoding that happens in there that causes you to want to go more. And there's two things. Number one is to get really clear on why you're doing what you're doing. In other words, if you're going to the gym, get really clear that the outcome is to build this muscle, but why are you doing it? Remember, the why is the carrot on the stick. The why pulls you forward. The why in this case is because you're going to be healthier, because you're going to look good, because you're going to feel better, because you're going to look good better in tight shirts or whatever it is, or the nice dress you're going to wear or whatever it is. The why that you're doing this business and doing whatever you're going to do is because on the other side, you get to have financial freedom. You get to build a financial wall around your family. You get to buy this new car. You buy your mom a house or whatever it is. That's your reason why. Get really clear on that first. Obviously, the goal is important. Utmost important of what you want, but then you got to get clear on why you're going to do it. And then how we roll up in here, and it's the reason why in the very beginning I said to grab a pad and paper. Write it down. What you write is what you invite. That's how we roll up in here. What you don't is what you won't. Write it down. Here's what I want, and here's why I do it. I know this is simple, but remember, we are programming. We're neuro-encoding our brain to do. If somebody else has already done something, you can do it as well. Remember, you look at other people of what's possible. Don't look at somebody else and go, oh, they've done it, so they're better than me and I'm a loser. You go, they've done it, so that means I can do it as well. Use them as an example of possibility. So write it down, what you want, why you want it. And then when you do it, even if you do just a little bit of it, When you're done, even though you're hurting and even though it's in pain, you've got to remind yourself of why you're doing it, and you've got to reward yourself, and you've got to give yourself that dopamine rush in the moment. I'll tell you why here in a second. Let me tell you how first. So let's say you're lifting these weights, and at the end of the workout, you're hurting and everything, and even later on, but you got to do it right away. You don't just, when you say sit and the dog sits down, you don't go, okay, I'll praise the dog later. You got to praise him right now. You got to praise yourself. You got to go, oh, I did that. Yes, that was great. And let me think about why I'm doing this. My muscle is going to grow. I might not see it every day, but it's going to get better and better. I'm going to, because I'm already successful. And you have that kind of conversation. And here's what happens when you do that. The brain goes, hey, this feels good, because as soon as and all you gotta do is smile, by the way. Just put a smile on your face. Let your eyebrows go up, because the brain is gonna release. You hear me talk about it. It's my favorite. There's other compounds and other hormones, but dopamine is the one that is the most beneficial towards conditioning or encoding you to do more and have more. So as soon as you smile, as soon as you recognize yourself, as soon as you shake your ass, as soon as you go, I did this, this is great, even though it hurts. And as soon as you focus on what you want and why you want it, the brain goes, oh, wait a minute, this feels good. What just happened? Oh, I exercised. Let's just do it again. Let's do it again. So what happens is, remember, human physics. The more you do it, you get better and better at it. So now when it's time to go to the gym the next time, it gets easier. And when it's time to go to the gym the next time, it gets easier and easier. And then pretty soon, I'm not trying to make you a gym rat or anything like that. I remember this is synonymous with anything. I say weight loss and things like that, but it's synonymous with anything that you want to do. And what happens to your life is you start to grow geometrically, not incrementally, geometrically. Incrementally means 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 1 is 3, 3 + 1 is 4. Geometrically means 1 + 1 is 2, but 2 + 2 is 4, and 4 + 4 is 8, and 8 + 8 is 16, 16 is 32, and it goes boom, 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 boom. Think about it. That's the way life is meant to grow. Cells divide geometrically. 1, 2, 4, 8, 6, it just grows like that. And that means it grows faster. This is why I call it further faster. So the process is really, really simple. Super simple. I didn't say it's necessarily easy, but remember, smoking cigarettes, and I use that as an example, it can be anything, that you don't get pleasure from right away, that doesn't feel good, but you continue to do it, then guess what? You employed that same thing. Something inside you made you go, if I continue to do this, I'm going to get A, B, C, D. Maybe you saw somebody else enjoying it or whatever, even though sometimes you know what the consequences are. In our brains and in our imagination, we make the result real inside of us. You may have heard me say this before, that the brain and the body cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is not when we imagine it. Use it. Use your imagination. Praise yourself. Step number 1, integrity. Pillar number 1, integrity. Do what you say you're going to do. If you didn't get that exercise, go back to that video, check it out. I gave you something to do. Okay? To build that integrity inside of you and to prove that you already are a badass. Second thing is tenacity. Second pillar is tenacity. Continue to do it over and over again until you surpass your goal. How to create discipline? Write what you want. Write down your reason why you want to do it. Then do it. And at the end of it, praise yourself. Every time. And by the way, don't just praise yourself in that moment. Every time you think about it, oh, I did it, praise yourself again. Praise yourself again. How do you praise yourself? Pat yourself on the back. Do a little dance. Put a smile on your face. Go in the mirror, look yourself and say, I love you. Look, do all of those things. This is the type of stuff that grows you here. See, I was talking to a good friend of mine. Her name was Beverly Johnson a few days ago. And Beverly is and was the very first black model on the cover of Vogue magazine back in the 60s. And that was a big deal back there. And I was talking to her and she said, I don't know why, but I always had this drive, but I always had this need to be the best. I was a swimmer, I was, in school and all these things. And she said, and I told her as we were talking, I go, well, Beverly, that came from one of two places. You were either taught it consciously, somebody said this and then they did something, they empowered you, or you picked it up somewhere unconsciously. Either way, when you did something, you got some sort of reward. And she goes, yeah. She goes, my parents praised me, people around, especially in something like that, you get accolades and things like that. That's what pulls us forward. But you cannot wait for other people to do it for you. You cannot wait. Now, by the way, that happened for her 50 years ago. We were talking because it's the 50-year anniversary of that. That happened to her 50 years ago. You don't have to wait 50 years, or you don't have to have done something 50 years ago. The old saying is the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago. The next best time is right now. It doesn't matter where you are, you can start, and you can geometrically do what we say is condensed time, but you can geometrically grow and you can go there faster. So very, very simple. Integrity is doing what you say you're going to do. Tenacity means doing it over and over and over again until you surpass your goal. And all of these pillars, by the way, I have them in a free book that I have for you. Just click on the link. It's yours free. And in it, all of these things I outline and some exercises in there you can do. The book is called Dare to be Magnificent. And I promise you, when you have it, it's something that you're going to go back to for the rest of your life. And as you do it, you start to get more. So click on the link, follow the link, get yourself this book so that you have it. And listen, you don't have to sit down and read it in one setting. Read a little bit at a time. Read it with your children. Read it, share the stuff. Because that's the other thing. Share, share, share. You don't have to give me credit for it, but share. And then lastly, always like and subscribe. If you like what you see here, please subscribe and like it and pass it on, if you will. Ring the bell to make sure you get the notifications as well. So thank you so much for your and by the way, I'm excited about the third one. You're going to love the third one as well coming up here. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your trust and your energy. And remember, life is exactly what you dare to make it. And fortune favors the bold. So the trick to life is to always boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent. I'll see you at the top. I'm out.